I'd like us to continue. Okay. Who would like to read this paragraph in order to deal?
Now, Rami, I think I am going to have to drop out at this point because
I'm going to too.
Right.
I've got some things that I want to go do, but I have found this interesting so far, and I wish you well as you plow on through it, and I hope when we get together next time, you will give us a 25-word summary of what you decided.
I will measure it to the word.
Right. I'm going to be leaving too, Rami. So I got some things I have to do as well. So I was
Mike.
just looking at an hour tonight. I didn't realize this was 2 hours. So I have some other commitments I have to take care of right now. So I'm going to be leaving you. So have a good evening. Nice hearing from you and everybody else. Nice seeing you, Mike, and everybody else here too. Okay.
Oh, thank you for being here.
Okay.
I may say.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll see you all next time.
Okay.
We'll see you. Take care.
So, Ellen and Hiro, do you want to take a break or do you want to continue on?
I don't know if it's for me to say, but I can do either one.
Great. I did schedule this till 9 because I wanted to get more done. In other words, I want there to be fewer total sessions to get through this than the prior one. But I also have to admit that my dinner arrived just a few minutes after the scheduling of this, so I would need the two of you to read for at least 5-10 minutes while I scarf down some tacos from Tijuana Flats. And Hiro, would you be interested in reading for us this next paragraph? Let's find out.
What paragraph?
The one that starts with, in order to deal with all the relevant issues.
Let's see. I don't see any paragraph.
Let me see if I stop and then reshare if that makes a difference for you.
Looks like the first paragraph down on the page after the continuing one.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think something's coming up. Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Really? Oh, yeah. I guess I have my audio on, but my video is off. Let's see. Oh. I get the top of the paragraph cut off. The first line.
It's actually the next paragraph, so the fourth line that's displayed. I can scroll up if you want me to.
Let's see.
I'll go ahead and do that.
Where is it? The one that says in the second part?
In order. Not the second part, I just scrolled up a bit. I just scrolled up the page, so it starts with, in order to deal with.
It's still cut off.
Al, would you like to read or shall I?
It's. Can you scroll down?
Yes.
Or is it up? Scroll up. Now I see in order. Now I don't.
You don't see in order?
It's got cut off.
Can
you move it so I can see the first line of the paragraph? I only see parts in the first part of this paper. I will trace. Maybe that's because it's my
Oh,
phone.
it must be. Can you go back to your computer?
Oh, I fixed it.
Good
All
job.
right. I pinched and it fit. In order to deal with all the relevant issues, the paper will be divided into 3 parts. In the first part of this paper, I will trace the fundamental characteristics of the 2 conceptions of the highest good. I will do so by taking a very close look at Kant's grappling with the dialectic of pure practical reason. As we investigate it, we will see that there are strains and elements of consistency in Kant's account as it finds development both in his first and second critique. Nevertheless, important features of Kant's systematic project deriving from his most fundamental critical principles eventually led him to a resolution of his views, especially concerning the character of the highest good as transcendent. Reflection on the character of the latter will enable us to carve out an understanding in which the 2 concepts are sharply distinguished and their role vis-a-vis one another clearly delimited. Furthermore, this sharp delineation of the 2 concepts will enable us to see a problem with Kant's understanding of the highest good as imminent, having significant consequences for his argument for the existence of God.
Wow. Who saw that coming? Okay. So what does that mean? What did you just read to us?
So the paper will be divided into 3 parts. The first part will trace the fundamental characteristics of the 2 conceptions of the highest good. No, he hasn't even discussed the second part or third part. That's in the next paragraph. The second part. So in the first part, he's going to take a very close look at Kant's grappling with the dialectic of pure practical reason. As we investigate it, we will see that there are strains and elements of inconsistency in Kant's account as it finds development both in his first and second critique. What are the 2 concepts?
Shall we go on? I'm sorry. I'm wondering if we should just keep reading so that we get to the second part and the third part. But
To get an overview of the parts?
right. I'll scroll up a bit. But you might also have a question. I don't know. What do we need to explore about that first paragraph? Because this is Mariña?
Mm.
So I love that Jacqueline's coming back here and saying that she's seeing where Kant is limited in his own understanding. She's got something like a quarter of a millennium plus here of additional human understanding to apply to this situation. And a number of other people who helped her reason out some of these ideas too. So I guess the main takeaway that I can take from this paragraph is the idea that the imminent isn't enough for understanding, or at least for coming up with a satisfactory argument for the existence of God, which you and I both know was
Mm.
the topic of our very long thread over at Plato's Cave discussion board. And probably the reason why Mariña and her reading group is able to come up with is able to see the problem or the limitation of the highest good is imminent is the work of the 19th century transcendentalist thinkers and writers, because we certainly had a lot of development in the area of the transcendental since Kant formulated his ideas. I'm going to read this next paragraph, and I think we may have just lost Al for a moment, or maybe for the evening, but that's okay. In the second part of the paper, I discuss the function of both notions of the highest good. Here I show why the highest good is a necessary object of practical reason, and how it relates to the categorical imperative. Against those commentators who argue that the highest good can be disposed with, I defend Kant's claim that the impossibility of the highest good must prove the falsity of the moral law also. Kant's claim here is the impossibility of the highest good must prove the falsity of the moral law also. We're going to find out what that's about in a little bit. On the other hand, I also argue against those who would affirm the importance of the highest good by claiming that it adds content to Kant's ethical, I'm guessing the word's going to be formulation. Formalism, okay. The results of this inquiry will show that while Kant is correct in affirming that the highest good is a necessary object of practical reason, the concept in particular, that of the highest good is imminent, must undergo certain revisions if it is going to fit consistently into Kant's overall project. In my third section, I will continue to reflect on how two notions of the highest good are related to one another, and why the highest good, as transcendent, is its principal significance, and how a commitment to the possibility of this interrelationship also commits one to an understanding of the natural world, which requires the existence of God. What's this doing for you, Nairo?
Mm. Mm.
Take a look at this.
There's the highest good as a transcendent and the highest good as something else.
Let's take a moment and explore what we understand those two words mean. Transcendent and imminent. Are they terms that you're already familiar with?
Transcendent. Transcendent. So one of the highest goods is imminent and the other one is transcendent or something like that. What is the exact wording?
Yes. One of the earliest works that Jacqueline Mariña uses in this essay is a reference to another fellow who stated that Kant's concept of the highest good could be understood as as um, as primarily or as being described as transcendent and imminent, transcendent and imminent. So I'm going to go ahead and just pull up the two words in Google and see what they give us. There we go. Let me pull up the other one. Okay, all right, good to go. Imminent. Okay. And let's see. I'm just going to read this 11th footnote out loud in case it helps us with something. Kant introduces the subject of highest good by noting that it can be either the supreme good, supremum, because it is an unconditional condition. That's like an uncaused cause, maybe. Another idea of the concept of the start of it all. Unconditional condition, or it could be thought of as the not test the Lord your God. I don't know if there's a connection there or not. That is subordinate to no other, or the perfect good, consummatum. Its latter sense denotes a whole which is yet no part of a yet larger whole. Whole which is yet no part of a yet larger whole. Out of Critique of Practical Reason. The latter includes both virtue and happiness. I'll argue that when both components are thought of as complete, they are holiness and bliss. When Kant first introduces the concept, he considers it in terms of virtue and happiness, where virtue is the condition of happiness. I think I can understand that. However, later on in his discussion, he equates the highest good with an intelligible world, which is, I mean, there's hope in that for us. The problem and its consequences will be discussed in more detail below. Okay, welcome back. We decided to pull up the definitions for transcendent and imminent and just to delve into them for a little bit. Let me go over and switch my share screens. No tab, we'll start with transcendent. Arlo, do you want to read this for us?
Transcendent. Adjective. Beyond or above the range of normal or merely physical experience. The search for a transcendent level of knowledge. Surpassing the ordinary, exceptional. The conductor was described as a transcendent genius. Similar to superior, supreme, consummate, predominant, preeminent of God, existing apart from and not subject to the limitations of the material universe. Similar, supernatural, preternatural, transcendental, otherworldly, superhuman. So, can you use the word transcendent in a sentence, Rami? Imminent, adjective, existing or operating within, inherent. The protection of liberties is imminent in constitutional arrangements. similar, inherent, intrinsic, innate, built in, latent, essential, fundamental, of God, permanently pervading and sustaining the universe. Similar, pervasive, pervading, permeating, omnipresent, ubiquitous. Immanent is sometimes confused with imminent.
Which I think would be as though it's a danger.
Maybe that's what I was thinking. Imminent. Imminent sounds maybe the definition might involve something like it's about to happen. It's imminent. Immanent. Now I get that it's built in or pervasive, permeating, imminent. So what would a imminent higher good be like? Or is imminent, is that like a quality or an attribute of higher goodness, that it is imminent, that it is permeates all of all the universe and its creatures? It's imminent. And the other word is transcendent. Transcendent. That it's beyond the material. It's supernatural. Or what do you think? Is that what he's pointing to, that the higher good is both imminent and transcendent, and he's analyzing them, looking at what makes the higher good imminent and what makes it transcendent.
Yes. Well, what can we know of each so as to understand the whole?
So, imminent. So, a higher good is immanent because it doesn't exclude any players in the scheme of things. In the striving to obtain higher good, there is an imminence to it, because and there is a transcendence because there are no boundaries in the higher goodness pervading all the players. All the players would be all the beings striving for a higher good. Or obtaining higher good should include everyone without exception, or else it is a lopsided higher good. It would be exclusive. It would depend upon who has the most power to obtain such higher good. Then it could cause higher bad to those who are excluded. Hmm.
I love your exploration, Hiram.
Hmm. Hmm. But I like the word imminent, or the definition. It suggested also a word inherent. Inherent. Hmm. Built in.
Yes.
Existing or operating within. Latent. Essential. Hmm.
I'm purposely staying away from religious terms and religious understanding.
But maybe what does Kant mean by imminent? Maybe he means pervasive.
Right. Maybe.
Or imminent.
Mhm.
Pervasive instead of inherent. Inherent sounds like it's only limited to the individual being considered as having some imminence in it. Whereas pervasive, it sounds like it's universal, that there's something pervading all creation.
Mhm.
So it's more expansive, that definition.
Right, and
So we
not
have
limited.
to determine what Kant really, what his definition of imminent is, or what the commentator is thinking it is, or whoever wrote this article is not really Kant. It's somebody that's analyzing Kant.
Yes, Jacqueline Mariña.
So maybe he has
She.
his own definition or use of the word imminent.
She. I'm going to place a footprint into this line of thought and state that perhaps the only difference between the imminent and the transcendent is embodiment. Meaning everything that you understand as being imminent or being the highest good, which is embodied in a person, place, or thing, in a particular noun, is also, as a verb, whether there is an embodiment, whether or not there is a universe, the highest good still exists. And that's why you continue to scrolling up and switch. Before I change the video here, just ask, do you have any additional thoughts? Because I think that's the introduction of the work so far.
Do I have any additional thoughts? What? I have a thought about striving for higher good.
Go ahead.
What if our striving for higher or the highest good is the cause of evil?
Right.
Because by striving for the highest good, you have to discriminate and make judgment.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you may not discern completely. You may have false accusations and and you would attempt to suppress or destroy or cancel or censor out what you think is not for the highest good, then you oppress diversity or tribes, even though tribalism sounds like it's bad, yet diversity is good, and so you have all these conflicting views, and you're trying to come up with what is the highest good, but by doing so, you are you're going to cause some suffering in your attempt to make it happen. And so perhaps we shouldn't do anything and let things things happen as the way they want to happen. And and I was thinking about virtue versus vice. If we try to eliminate vice, we tend to use force to stop the vice. And that force is tends to be violent. So you're fighting evil with evil or something like that.
I
So
love your line.
what if we look at virtue and vice as things that are in a dance, and they're doing a yin and yang dance, and you can't have the dance without both of them going on, so you have to let them happen, and not try to force only virtue. You should allow vice or non-virtue to happen.
Right.
Because in a capitalistic free market, we assume that it's self-regulating. So if we try to regulate it, well, the ones that gain monopoly over the others, that could be critically bad. It would prevent innovation. So how did they become so powerful? Those monopolistic winners who cornered the market. Did they obtain their control in a virtuous manner, or did they have to apply some non-virtuous techniques to gain their control and their richness and power? Did they influence the government to give them an upper hand?
I think history proves the point.
Hmm. Hmm.
Let's see if we can complete these two paragraphs and then call it a night. Because my son has decided to invade the room, and he may produce additional sounds, and that's okay because he's learning too, and we wouldn't want to. I wouldn't want my learning to get in the way of his learning. But I'm just gonna read this paragraph, and then you can read the next paragraph, and we'll leave it there for this evening. Two conceptions of the highest good. So this is part one of the paper. In the first critique, Kant had defined the highest good as happiness in proportion to one's worthiness to be happy, and had already noted that this proportionality does not exist in this life. The highest good was then presented as an object of hope. Belief in God assures us that it will be realized in the next world. At this point, the possibility of happiness is simply transposed to a future life. It is only in the dialectic of his second critique that Kant began to struggle with the implications of thinking of the highest good as both the consummate good and as an unconditioned condition. Here he endeavors to show why the highest good cannot be achieved in this life. In the process, he attains crucial insights respecting the nature of both happiness and virtue and how they relate to one another when they are synthesized in the highest good. And I'm going to put myself on mute and scroll up to give you an opportunity to talk and to then pick up on the reading.
Wow. That was the highest good of talking about the highest good. The highest good ever.
Do you want to read from Nevertheless?
Nevertheless, even in the dialectic, Kant did not completely think through. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. I was trying to move the tiles that have the J and the R because it was covering the letters. But then I'm on my phone. But then how do I swing over? No, I see you now. How do I'm trying to do what I normally do on Zoom. I swipe to the left or right to get to the page I want. Oh, I got there finally. Nevertheless, but I was wondering how to move it. I can't seem to drag the tile.
When I stop sharing and then I start resharing, I found
I
through
can
Jitsi
actually
doing that will bring it back up again.
Oh, I can actually drag the page over to the left. Now I can read to the end of the line. So even in the dialectic, Kant did not completely think through the implications of his understanding of the highest good as the unconditioned and consummate good, that is, as transcendent, nor did he fully realize how this concept stood in tension with an understanding of the highest good as a synthetic concept. So because of confusions respecting the two conceptions of the highest good, Kant did not see that his argument for the existence of God, as developed in the dialectic, does not work. That is not to say, however, that the argument cannot be salvaged through some revisions. In order to show why the argument as it stands does not work, and how its failure is connected with a confusion respecting the two concepts of the highest good, I will develop 2 points in this section. A, throughout the dialectic, Kant elaborates the highest good as a synthetic concept. In fact, the antinomy generated therein depends on this understanding of the highest good. Moreover, Kant unfolds the dialectic by developing the character of the highest good as as let's see if I can get to it. As consummate, perhaps? Is that where I go to next?
Yes, consummate.
As consummate and as an unconditioned condition in terms of his development of the concept as synthetic. And B, a critical elucidation of what is involved in the highest good as both an unconditioned, conditioned, and as a consummate, and as consummate shows that this understanding of the highest good, what I will label its transcendent aspect, is not one which involves the synthesis of two heterogeneous concepts.
1A, the highest good as a synthetic concept and its exposition in the dialectic we will get to next reading. Let me see the time. All right, we've got 17 more minutes, so we can unpack these two paragraphs in that time, or at least this last one.
Wow.
So I'm going to start from the bottom and work up, not one that involves the synthesis of two heterogeneous concepts. So back in the introduction, there was the idea of the highest good as being both the end, or to use the embodied idea, you know what? I'm going to be quiet and just listen to you for a while. I'm sorry. That was a little unfair of me. Not one which involves synthesis of two heterogeneous concepts.
Genius.
Meaning different, right? What was A? And also, there's a footnote here. Let me read that. In his first critique, Kant notes morality by itself constitutes a system. Happiness, however, does not do so, save insofar as it is distributed in exact proportion to morality. But this is possible only in the intelligible world under a wise author and ruler. Such a ruler, together with life in such a world, we must regard as a future world. Reason finds itself constrained to assume. Immanuel Kant, Pure Critique of Reason. So I guess those would be the heterogeneous aspects of the synthesis, the idea of morality being a system and happiness not being a system, save for the fact that you need a certain amount of morality so as not to upset other people's happiness. So in a way, it becomes something like a system, or rather it becomes perhaps a rule, which brings up the idea of rules and the idea that rules can be found to be emergent. But then again, there's the author of ruler capitalized and also author. So you and I can understand something like the concept of God as being imminent. We've been studying under Luis for so many years, where he's giving you that idea of there being the ability to think in a way, in that I am sort of way, right? But then that's only part of it thus far, because there's also the transcendent. There's the I am that doesn't end in me, because me is insufficient to be able to really be omnipresent despite our own illusions that might try to claim otherwise.
So he's saying,
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
So he's saying that, okay, morality is a system because who creates the system of morality? Hmm. Is it society that any one particular society or group uh, mm, evolves its own morality system? It comes up with rules and regulations naturally to keep everyone in line, so it becomes a system. But happiness in itself is not a system. It's something going on in the in the individuals experiencing, or that have the ability to either create their happiness or have conditions that cause them unhappiness, that unbearable unhappiness, like unbearable pain and suffering. So it cannot be. Let's see see if I can get back to Jitsi. Where is it? I don't find it on my phone. Maybe I got disconnected.
You're still here, Hyro. I can still hear you.
Where is it? I'm swiping through where is it? Let's see, WhatsApp, notes, messaging, Google Chrome, mail, a reader, Lens, Outlook, Facebook, Adobe. Maybe I should close. That's Alexa. I guess I should close things that are open, apps that are open. Let's see. Okay. Well, maybe I could swipe down and see what's open. Blinkist. Occult America. Let's see. They can close this. They can close that. They can close Facebook. They can close Audible. They can close this. Should I close Meetup? They can close. Should I close that one? What is that? That's something else. Music. Media. Where? I'm still here?
You're still here.
Yes, I hear you. But how do I get to you?
Probably Google Chrome.
Let's see. Maybe I have to go on Meetup and click on it again.
Or you're back.
No,
Hi.
there's one of them. Wow. There's two Ramis also.
Interesting.
Maybe one of them is for the presentation.
Okay.
Yes, that footnote is interesting.
I love the title.
Because it suggests that morality by itself will not guarantee happiness. So you're going to have to have the continuation of the play with the hope that there's a future world, either heaven or hell, or another life in another form, or another dimension, or somewhere in between, purgatory.
Or what about just the idea of,
to allow for happiness to continue to express itself, or the opposite of happiness, the unhappiness of being in hell.
well, let's say within a single lifetime, imagine living
or,
on Earth
or being reborn
to the new world.
in as another being, other, like either reborn a human or an animal. Well, there's more animals than humans, so there's a there's a possibility that one could be reborn as an animal.
Well, if you believe in an
If it's a,
incarnation, I don't know if that was
it's a-
something that was going on in Prussia in the early
Okay.
18th century.
a dice,
They
roll of the dice.
may have
does it?
considered it.
Hmm. Let's see. Let me lower the volume on this.
There's also the idea
Hello?
of,
Can you hear me? Can I hear
Yes.
you?
can you hear me? I don't know that you can hear me.
I can hear you now. My Bluetooth earbuds died on me, so I had to use wired. Wired. Does it sound okay?
Yes.
Just using this little microphone. Hello.
Okay.
Hmm.
There's also the idea. You'll get this sense if you ever come to have children, Hiro, that sometimes what we do, at least what parents will do, is dedicate themselves to try to make the world that they were born into a better world, so that their children and the children of other families would have themselves a better future world. So that's
Oh, that's an
right.
alternative perspective, or maybe that's what he meant by a future world.
I would claim that that's the mainstream or the first order perspective when it comes to mankind. Love, by the way, that Immanuel Kant titled one of his papers "Critique of Pure Reason," because I know that prior to that point, there were probably people arguing that pure reason alone would be enough to produce that better world. But I get a sneaking suspicion that he knew something that told him no, that's not the case.
So you're saying that Kant wrote Critique of Pure Reason to counter the age of reason, the age of enlightenment, perhaps? No, the age of
Kant is
post enlightenment, the age of science.
Kant is the crown to enlightenment, to the age of enlightenment. In other words, it was incomplete without him. And when so many philosophers, such as when I took computer science 1 at UCF, and we had a person from the philosophy department, John Jones, Dr. Jones came in, he gave reference to Kant. And he's probably the only philosopher out of the Enlightenment period where he would bother to come to a computer science 1 lecture and give reference or mention to, because stop and consider for a moment the world that we're living in and the world that we're making. Now, if it's all done utilizing nothing but ones and zeros or case statements or if this and then that's, what will that produce? I think very quickly it'll produce a prison.
It will produce what?
A prison.
A prison.
Right, because it's based upon, as you stated earlier, other people's limited perceptions of what the good world is.
What if you build into the program, if this, then that, but allow for a random then? So, and have it happen in random percentages of possibly happening. So if this, then that, but occasionally do this at varying percentages of times. So if I go into this room, I want the lights to turn on, but not always. Every now and then surprise me and not turn them on. But make it a random possibility. That will make it seem like the room has free will. Call it pseudo free will.
All right, that's still inferior to. It's the difference between teaching programs and teaching programming. You understand?
Teaching programs and teaching programming.
That's right. So when I started learning computers in the 80s, I was getting along with the systems and some existing minor software library. I was also given the ability to start to learn how to write new applications. Later, computing was introduced to grade school children in the form of merely learning an existing set of programs. Once it's uneditable, unchangeable, foreign. I mean, you didn't really understand that it could be something different. You were just handed these things, and then you were graded on your ability to utilize the existing software library that had been built up to that point. When I say that it would create a prison, if all you're doing is utilizing someone else's reason from the past, that's a surefire way to ossify the environment. Because not only have you removed man's future ability to utilize their faculties of reason to continue programming out the environment, but you're removing man's agency, which maybe I'm saying the same thing here, but what you were describing, I know, was actually utilized in a number of early artificial intelligence, actually language systems, the idea of random bits. But I see now it is 9 p.m., so it's time to say good night.
I've been holding pee for like an hour.
And let me just stop the recording, and we'll say good night, and until next time.
Good night. Thanks for having this.
Till next time.
This was fun. Thank you.